To complement the patio chair set from my last build video, up next is a matching propane fire pit coffee table. And just like the chairs and sofa, I'll have full build plans available for this linked down in the video description. Later in the video, I'll show an example how you can follow the dimensions but use whatever materials you want for the look you're going for. But we're going with concrete for the tabletop, and since that's the most time consuming part curing wise, I wanted to get that done first. Starting with building the form out of 3/4 inch melamine. Melamine is great for forms because it's cheap, it's perfectly smooth with no wood grain or anything that'll show through into the concrete, and the concrete won't stick to it. With the main form built, next I needed to create the void where the fire pit insert would sit in the table. This will ultimately be hidden, but since I didn't miter these corners and have some of the end grain of the melamine exposed, I went ahead and wrapped this in seam tape so the concrete wouldn't soak into those ends and be a pain to remove. Next, I could get all the corners sealed with some 100% silicone and smooth it out with a round cake fondant tool. This is going to give us nice rounded edges on the concrete, and those ridges that it's leaving behind are easily removed after it dries. After getting the form sitting level and all cleaned out, I could get to mixing the concrete. I'm using Quickcrete's countertop mix, which you don't have to use for this, especially since it may be hard to find locally, but I do like the mix if you're able to find it. I used about 1.5 bags for this, and I got it all mixed up at once to ensure there wouldn't be any color variations. Once it was mixed up, I shoveled some into a bucket to make it more manageable carrying into the shop and got it placed in the form. I'm filling the form about halfway to start here, and I have some of this mesh left over from Concrete Countertop Solutions from past projects, so I went ahead and got that placed and then finished filling the forms. After screeding off the excess concrete and vibrating the snot out of it with a mallet and recip saw, I used a magnesium float to work the cream around to fill any voids. I didn't work with it too much, since it is the bottom of the tabletop after all, just needed it to be flat. I covered it with plastic, which is going to help keep the concrete moist as it cures, and then I could jump right into building the table base, again using cedar to match the chairs. Starting here with this 4x4, and I'm going to cut all 4 legs out of it by resawing it down smaller and multiple passes on the table saw. With the rest of the material for the base cut down to size, I could start putting this thing together. Sticking with the DIY theme from the chairs and using minimal tools, I'm using pocket hole screws here. I don't typically use pocket holes on furniture, I use them more for just cabinetry, but I'm not going for heirloom quality furniture here. This is going to live outside with bugs, bird poop, getting rained on, so we're going for quick, strong, and again just making it a more approachable build that some of you have been asking for. With the main frame of the table assembled, here I'm adding some additional framing on the bottom for the propane tank to sit on. And you'll see I went with a horizontal tank that can be laid down on its side. This allowed me to build the table at a lower height so I could actually sit back and relax and prop my feet up on this thing. From there I wanted to add some additional framing on top, right around the inside edge of the concrete where the fire insert would be hanging, just to give it more support. Lastly, I could get the base wrapped with the horizontal slats. I went with a 1/4 inch spacing between the slats, so to make the finishing process a lot easier, I went ahead and applied several coats of oil to the edges before installing them. But this is where you can really customize the look of your table. You could do vertical slats, and since I was wanting to stick with cedar, this cedar lap siding or tongue and groove boards were both options that I considered as well. On this table I built for a customer a few weeks ago, we used this grooved plywood siding panel that we painted white. And notice we went with deck boards for the top on that one. So that's an option too if you don't want to mess with the concrete. But all I'm doing here is adding glue and getting the slats screwed on through the framing on the inside. And I figure I better point these plastic shims out since I use them all the time in videos and always get asked what they are. This is an assortment of several different sizes, and you definitely gotta get some to have on hand. They're super handy for all sorts of stuff. I'll leave an Amazon link for these, along with everything else I'm using throughout the video, down below in the video description. The access door for the propane tank follows the same look and is just held together with a couple slats glued and screwed to the back. At this point I could go ahead and bring this beautiful cedar to life by applying the outdoor defense oil. For oil finishes on this initial application, you basically just want to keep wiping on oil until the wood won't soak in anymore. In between coats of oil, it was time to demold the concrete top to see how that turned out. I was really happy with how the top turned out, super smooth and almost zero imperfections. And this is concrete after all, so I'm not going for perfect, but the edges were quite a bit rougher than I'd like. I vibrated and tapped the edges like crazy. I just think my mix was a little too stiff. So to fix all those voids, I mixed up a slurry, just using more of the countertop mix and tint, and worked it in all over to fix those spots and left it to dry. To finish up the table base, first all I needed to do was add these plastic nail-in feet, just so the wood is never sitting directly on the deck soaking up water. And then I could get the latch magnets screwed on for the access door. For the gas fire pit insert, this is a little annoying, but notice how I'm attaching the gas line and igniter box in the center of the insert. But, going off the pictures on Amazon, I thought this was going to be all the way at one end of the insert, not the center. So I designed this and started building before getting it in the mail. But with it being right in the center, you can see I have to set the propane tank in there at an angle for it to work. Not the end of the world, it still works, and overall for the price, I'm really happy with the quality of the insert. All that was left to do is sand down that slurry coat on the top to where only those filled voids are left. And I do still need to apply a sealer after the concrete fully cures. That takes about a month, and I don't want to wait that long to release this video, but I do plan on doing a wet look sealer, so to give you an idea, it should look pretty close to this here when I spray it with water. If you don't already, follow over on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, and I'll post a little clip applying the wet look sealer when the time comes, so you get to see it in its final form. But for now, we moved it onto the deck, filled it with some green glass fire rocks to match the chair cushions, and got started enjoying it. This is one my wife has been asking for a long time, so I'm glad to finally get it done. Again, full build plans and links to all the tools and products I used are linked down below, along with that subscribe and thumbs up button if you don't mind. Until next time, take care.